the hidden signs of longevity, and why most people miss them. If you're between the ages of 65 and 85, and you can still do these 6 things, you're not just healthy. You are rare, a living gem, a treasure that even doctors admire in quiet awe. You see, every decade of life after 60 is like climbing a steeper mountain. And those who still have their grip, their smile, and their pace, they're not just survivors. They're predictors of something powerful, a longer life, and a more fulfilling one. Let me ask you something personal. When was the last time someone looked at you and said, "You're aging backward"? Or maybe they didn't say it, but you saw it in their eyes, that little spark of envy or surprise when they noticed you standing tall, thinking clearly, or remembering details they already forgot. Here's the truth. The world is filled with myths about aging. We hear it every day, that it's all downhill after 70, that forgetfulness is normal, that weakness is just part of life. But here's what I've seen over decades of working with older adults. These myths only apply to people who stopped paying attention, who stopped fighting, who gave in too early. But not you, because if you're still doing some of the things I'm about to share, not only are you healthier than 90% of people your age, you're likely on track to hit 90, 95, even 100, with quality, not just quantity. And yes, science backs this up. These are not abstract ideas or wishful thinking. They are real, research-backed indicators of extended health span, not just lifespan. That means not just living longer, but living stronger. And I'm not talking about running marathons or climbing Mount Everest. I'm talking about things far more profound, like this. Waking up with purpose, not pills. Feeling joy in small things. Moving without pain. Remembering the past and dreaming about the future. Because here's what no one tells you. The way you live right now, today, at 65, 70, 80, is one of the strongest predictors of whether you'll reach 100. Not your genes, not your money, not even your medical record. And that's why this video is so important. In this series, we'll go through 6 powerful signs, things that if you can still do today, say something amazing about your body, your brain, and your potential. But more than that, I'll show you how to protect these abilities so you don't just hold on to them, you strengthen them. Because if you're lucky enough to still walk with purpose, remember names, laugh deeply, cook your own meals, care for someone else, or even simply breathe deeply without effort, you are already holding the keys to longevity. But now it's time to use them wisely. Let's start with something small, but incredibly powerful. You can stand up from a chair without using your hands. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? Standing up? Something we do every day. But here's the twist. After age 65, your ability to stand up from a seated position without using your hands is one of the single most accurate predictors of your risk of falling, your strength, your mobility, and yes, your chances of reaching 90 or 100. This is called the sit-to-stand test, and researchers have been using it for years to track longevity and muscle function in older adults. Why? Because it tells us 2 powerful things: leg strength and balance. Your thighs, glutes, and core are responsible for much more than walking. They keep you stable. They protect your joints. They are your body's brakes and your body's engine. Neuromuscular coordination. Being able to move smoothly and quickly from sitting to standing without help means your brain, muscles, and nerves are still talking clearly to each other. A major sign of cognitive and physical resilience. Now here's the kicker. Older adults who struggle to do this are far more likely to suffer falls, hospitalizations, and even premature death compared to those who can still do it with ease. I once had a patient, Mr. Johnson, 79 years old, big smile, walked in for his checkup and said, "Doc, I do 5 squats every time I stand up from my chair, just to prove I still got it." And you know what? He did. I checked his vitals, ran some blood work, and all his metrics matched what we'd expect for someone in their 50s. So the next time you're sitting in your kitchen or your garden chair, pause before you push off. Try standing up with no hands. Use your legs. Use your core. And if you can still do it with balance and grace, you're not just strong, you're young on the inside. But if it's difficult, that's okay too. This isn't a judgment, it's an invitation. Because even if your legs have weakened over time, you can rebuild them. Muscles respond at any age. Balance improves with training. And we'll cover that in a later part of this video. But for now, let's celebrate what this ability means. You're still anchored in your body. You're still mobile, and that is step 1 to reaching 100. Next, we'll talk about a second sign that surprises many people, but is deeply tied to how long and how well you'll live. It has nothing to do with your muscles and everything to do with your memory. Because if you can still do this one brain trick, science says your brain is 20 years younger than your body. And it may be the most powerful secret of all. Memory, meaning, and the longevity brain. Sign number 2. Let's move into sign number 2, and it's a quiet one. Not something you measure with a blood test or a fitness tracker. No, this one lives inside your mind, and it has the power to predict not just how long you'll live, but how clearly you'll live. If you can remember recent events without writing them down, if you can recall names, appointments, and little daily details, your brain is biologically younger than most people your age. Now you might be thinking, well, I forget things now and then. Doesn't everyone? Sure, that's normal. But here's the distinction. Normal forgetfulness is misplacing your keys once in a while. What we're talking about is the ability to form and retrieve new memories. Like remembering what your granddaughter told you last weekend, or what your neighbor said about their new dog. This ability, called working memory, is one of the strongest indicators of cognitive reserve, a kind of mental savings account your brain builds over a lifetime. And the more you invest in it, the more protection you have against dementia, Alzheimer's, and age-related brain decline. Think about it this way. The people who reach 95 or even 100 with their minds still sharp aren't just lucky. They've spent years challenging their memory, staying socially connected, learning new things, all of which grow the parts of the brain responsible for focus, recall, and decision-making. I had a patient named Grace, 84 years old, retired librarian. She walked into my office carrying 2 crossword puzzle books and a Kindle full of biographies. When I asked her how she keeps her memory so sharp, she smiled and said, "I read things I don't understand on purpose. Keeps the cobwebs out." She was right. Mental effort is brain food. Now here's what's fascinating. A recent study published in the journal Neurology found that older adults who maintained strong episodic memory, that is, the ability to recall recent life events, were 30% less likely to develop dementia within the next 5 years. 30%. That's not a small number. That's the difference between independence and full-time care for many. So what's the practical takeaway? If you can still recall what you had for breakfast yesterday, if you still remember a good story someone told you last week, if you can follow a conversation and add your own thoughts without notes, you are carrying something special inside your skull. A brain that's biologically protected. That's a rare treasure. And if you want to preserve that gift, you don't need a fancy supplement. What you need is mental engagement. Read a book that challenges you. Teach something to someone else. Explaining helps you remember. Write by hand. It triggers a different part of your brain than typing. Or my favorite, try to memorize short poems or quotes each week. It's like lifting weights for your hippocampus, the memory center of your brain. Now let's talk about something even more subtle, but no less powerful. Because even if your muscles are strong and your memory is sharp, there's something else that predicts exceptional longevity. And it has to do with your ability to feel deeply and to stay connected to the world around you. This brings us to sign number 3, the one that separates those who merely survive from those who thrive. You still feel a sense of purpose. Sounds philosophical, right? But science now confirms it's biological too. In one study published in JAMA Psychiatry, researchers followed over 6,000 older adults and found that those with a strong sense of purpose in life, even something as simple as waking up to water the plants or help a neighbor, had a 57% lower risk of dying over the next 5 years compared to those who felt aimless. 57%. That's more powerful than many medications. And it makes sense. Purpose keeps the brain engaged. Purpose reduces stress hormones. Purpose improves sleep. And it even improves immune function, meaning your body literally fights disease better when you feel like your life has meaning. I remember a man named Frank, 78, quiet widower, former train conductor. He came to me depressed after losing his wife, but a year later, he had a spark in his eyes again. What changed? He started volunteering at the local train museum. He told me, "Doc, it's not much, but I get to teach kids about something I love, and they listen." That's purpose. It doesn't need to be big. You don't need to start a nonprofit or write a novel. Purpose can be as simple as taking care of a pet, helping your spouse or neighbor, writing letters to your grandkids, planting a garden, passing on your family stories. If you still wake up and know why you're waking up, that's not just mental strength. That's a biological force field against disease, depression, and decline. And if you don't feel that purpose right now, that's okay too. This video can be your starting point, because you're still here, you're still learning, and that desire to grow, that's purpose in disguise. So now we've covered strength in the legs, the foundation of mobility and safety, strength in the brain, the protection of your cognitive future, strength in the heart, purpose, connection, and meaning. But what about your senses? Can they tell us something about your longevity too? Your forgotten superpower, the sense that predicts your lifespan. Let's begin part 3 with something unexpected, a sense you probably haven't thought about in years. But right now, science says it could be quietly predicting how long you'll live. It's not your sight, it's not your hearing, it's not even your balance, although we'll get to that. It's your sense of smell. That's right. If you can still smell things clearly, spices in the kitchen, flowers in the garden, soap on your skin, or even the scent of fresh coffee in the morning, you are holding on to something powerful. Why? Because your sense of smell is deeply connected to your brain's health. Specifically, it's wired into the olfactory bulb, which sits right next to the memory and emotion centers in your brain. And over the last decade, neurologists have discovered something shocking. Loss of smell often comes years before memory decline or dementia. One major study from Columbia University followed over 2,900 seniors for 4 years. What they found was astonishing. Those who had a poor sense of smell at the start of the study were nearly twice as likely to die in the following years, regardless of age, health, or medical history. In other words, when your sense of smell fades, it may be a warning light for deeper aging processes happening in the brain. So, if you're 65, 75, even 85, and you can still walk into your home and recognize the smell of cinnamon, your soap, your shampoo, or your dinner cooking, take a deep breath. That's not just a smell. That's a sign your brain is still healthy. that your sensory nerves are still communicating, that your system is still sharp and active. And here's why that matters. The olfactory nerve is one of the only parts of the nervous system that regenerates throughout life, but only if you stimulate it. When you stop smelling things, or your environment becomes dull and odorless, those neural pathways weaken. But if you continue to use your nose daily, by cooking with herbs, walking outdoors, lighting candles, or simply being mindful of the aromas around you, you are exercising your brain in ways that can delay cognitive aging. I once had a 77-year-old woman named Maria tell me that she makes it a point to crush mint leaves in her fingers every morning and smell them before her tea. She said it wakes up her soul. And guess what? That habit, small and simple, was doing more than just lifting her spirit. It was keeping her olfactory nerve engaged. That's brain fitness in disguise. So here's your simple longevity test. Go to your spice rack. Open up the cinnamon, cloves, garlic, or black pepper. Take a strong whiff. Do you smell something vivid, sharp, recognizable? That's a win. That's a sign of health. But if smells feel dull or missing, don't panic. It doesn't mean you're broken. It just means your system needs a wake-up call. Start engaging your senses again. Cook with fresh herbs. Visit a flower shop. Walk outside after it rains. Smell your soap. Sniff citrus. Light an incense stick. These tiny rituals have more power than you think. So now, let's recap. We've covered 3 major signs. You can stand up from a chair without your hands. Proof of strength and mobility. You can remember recent events clearly. A sign of cognitive reserve. You can still smell clearly. A secret window into your brain's health and longevity. Now let's move to sign number 4. One that's hiding in plain sight every day. And it has to do with how you move your hands. Yes, your grip strength, something most people never test, is one of the strongest predictors of survival past 80. In fact, doctors now call it the 6th vital sign. Think about it. Your heart rate, blood pressure, oxygen levels, they're all monitored in hospitals. But new studies suggest your grip strength may tell us more about your future than any of those numbers. One major research project from The Lancet followed over 140,000 adults from 17 countries. Their finding? Every 11-pound decrease in grip strength was linked to a 16% higher risk of death from any cause, not just from heart disease, but even cancer and respiratory illnesses. Why would grip strength matter that much? Because it reflects your overall muscle tone, your nervous system health, and your resilience. When grip strength is high, it means your body is still wired for survival. It means you can still carry groceries, open jars, hold railings, and most importantly, catch yourself in a fall. So, how do you know if your grip strength is good? Try this simple home test. Grab a full glass jar, something at least 1.5 to 2 pounds. Hold it with one hand for 30 seconds without shaking. Switch hands. If you can do this comfortably, and especially if you can still open stubborn jars without pain, your grip is likely above average for your age. Want something more challenging? Squeeze a tennis ball with full force. 10 reps per hand. If you can still do that, you're ahead of the curve. If it's hard, don't worry. Just like your legs, your hands can be trained. Start squeezing stress balls. Use light dumbbells. Do wrist curls. Practice hanging from a bar, even if your feet are still touching the ground. These small exercises send a big signal to your nervous system. Stay strong, stay connected, stay young. Because in old age, your hands are more than tools. They are lifelines. They help you dress, eat, write, communicate, protect yourself, and stay independent. When you lose grip, you lose autonomy. But when you keep it or reclaim it, you increase your odds of not just surviving, but thriving. So take a moment right now. Look at your hands. Try gripping your fist. Do you feel steady? Do you feel strength? That's not just a physical ability. It's a sign of cellular youth, a signal that your system still works in harmony. The strength of your heart, emotional resilience, forgiveness, and the fifth sign of longevity. We've talked about physical strength. We've talked about memory, senses, and even your grip. But now we're diving into something that rarely shows up on a blood test, and yet it might be the most important indicator of whether you'll live to 90 or 100 with grace. It's not a muscle. It's not a habit. It's an attitude. Sign number 5 is emotional resilience. That is, your ability to feel deeply, recover from stress, and still find peace when life doesn't go your way. You see, as we age, we lose more than just bone density and hormones. We lose people. We lose routines. We lose things we once depended on, roles, identity, sometimes even independence. And yet, some people, despite these losses, continue to shine. They smile, they forgive, they adapt, and they keep moving forward. These people don't have easier lives. They have stronger hearts, emotionally and biologically. In fact, new research shows that seniors with high emotional resilience, especially those who are quick to forgive, slow to hold grudges, and open to new experiences, have lower levels of inflammation, fewer cardiovascular incidents, and a lower risk of death from all causes. I had a patient named Arthur, 82 years old, lost his wife to cancer, son to addiction, and survived 2 heart surgeries. And yet when you met him, he'd greet you with warmth and tell you jokes that would make you laugh out loud. When I asked him how he stayed so upbeat, he said, "The alternative is bitterness, and that'll kill you faster than any disease." He wasn't wrong. Bitterness, resentment, and chronic anger release cortisol, the stress hormone that shrinks your brain, stiffens your arteries, and wrecks your immune system. But forgiveness, real forgiveness, is like medicine for the soul. It reduces blood pressure, improves sleep, and increases lifespan. And studies from Harvard and the Mayo Clinic agree, forgiving people live longer. So, here's the test. Can you still let things go? Can you talk about your past without bitterness in your voice? Can you accept the parts of life that didn't turn out how you wanted and still smile anyway? If you can, you're doing something very rare. You are aging with a soft heart, and soft hearts live longer. And by the way, emotional resilience doesn't mean you're always happy. It means you can experience sadness, anger, or grief, but you don't stay stuck there. You keep going. You find joy again. You find meaning again. And one of the best ways to rebuild that emotional strength? Stay connected to others. Talk. Share stories. Listen to music that stirs something in you. Write a letter. Tell someone you love them, even if they didn't say it first. These small acts are like fuel for your emotional fire. They keep you warm from the inside out. And now we arrive at the 6th and final sign, the one that might surprise you most. Because you don't need to lift weights to pass this test. You don't need a sharp memory or a steady hand. What you need is curiosity. Sign number 6. You still ask questions and want to learn new things. This is the secret trait I've seen in every patient I've ever known who reached their 90s with vitality. They never stopped learning. They didn't act like they knew everything. They didn't shut out new ideas. In fact, they were the ones always asking things like, "What does that word mean? Where does this come from? Can you teach me how to do that? What book should I read next?" And that, more than anything, kept them mentally alive. You see, curiosity is the opposite of decay. When your brain is curious, it grows new connections. It stays flexible. It adapts. And guess what? That flexibility is the hallmark of longevity. A study from the University of Edinburgh found that seniors who scored higher on curiosity and openness to new experiences had slower cognitive decline, better social relationships, and longer lifespans, even when controlling for education level and health status. I remember a woman named Nadine, 86 years old. She asked her granddaughter to teach her how to use Instagram. She said she didn't care for selfies, but wanted to see what the world was up to. That spirit, that hunger to explore, is what keeps people youthful. Because when you stop being curious, the world shrinks. You fall into routine. You close yourself off, and your brain, like a muscle that stops moving, begins to atrophy. But if you're still learning, even just watching this video right now, you're already in the elite group. You are stimulating your brain. You are stretching your mind. And that means your future is still unfolding, not shrinking. So don't ever tell yourself you're too old to learn. That is a lie society tells the elderly. And it's one of the most dangerous lies of all. Because here's the truth. Curiosity protects the brain like nothing else. It builds resilience. It rewires depression. It reawakens passion. It makes you feel alive. And you don't need a college degree or fancy tools to be curious. Just ask questions, read, try a new hobby, watch documentaries, join a local class, learn the lyrics to a song, talk to someone younger than you, talk to someone older than you. Every new idea you welcome into your mind is a deposit into your longevity bank. So here we are, 6 powerful signs. You can stand up without using your hands. You still remember recent events. You still have a strong sense of smell. Your grip is strong. Your heart is emotionally resilient. Your mind is still curious. If you can still do these things, even 4 out of 6, science says you are far ahead of your peers. You're not just surviving aging. You're mastering it. You're not just lucky. You're a living proof of what aging can look like. So now that we've walked through all 6 signs, let's pause for a moment and reflect. If you're between 65 and 85, and you still have strong legs that can lift you without help, if your memory still carries names, events, and stories that others forget, if you can still smell dinner on the stove or flowers in bloom, if you can open jars, hold grandchildren, or grip a garden spade without trembling, if you can forgive people who didn't apologize, or love again after being hurt, and if your mind still reaches for answers, still hungers for new knowledge, still says, "I don't know, let me find out," you are a rare treasure, a living, breathing example of what aging can be when it's nurtured instead of feared. The world doesn't tell you this enough. It's too busy selling anti-aging creams, medications, or miracle diets. But the truth is, if you've made it this far and you're still active, aware, curious, kind, you've already won the longevity lottery. It's not just about genetics. It's not about perfect habits. It's not about being rich or famous. It's about presence and practice and the quiet daily decisions that compound into something extraordinary. You may not realize this, but someone younger than you is watching. They're wondering how to age, how to stay sane when life changes, how to keep going after loss, how to stay strong when your body shifts, your friends fade, and the noise of youth fades into the background. And they're watching you. They may not say it, but you're the role model, the blueprint, the hope. So don't shrink back. Don't say, "I'm just getting old." Say, "I'm still learning." Say, "I'm still here," because you are. And that's no small thing. In fact, let me leave you with one final truth, something science, psychology, and generations of wisdom all agree on. The single greatest predictor of living a long and fulfilling life isn't luck, it's engagement. Engagement with your body, your mind, your purpose, your people, your curiosity, your resilience. And that's what these 6 signs represent. Not perfection, but participation. So if you've heard something in this video that applies to you, celebrate it. And if you've heard something that challenged you, don't be discouraged, because all of these traits can be improved with intention, with practice, and with a little love. Even if you're only doing 2 or 3 of these 6 things right now, that's a powerful start. The road to longevity is not a race. It's a series of choices made over and over again, even in the face of pain, fatigue, or loneliness. And now, before we close, I want to invite you to do something bold. Leave a comment and tell us which of these 6 signs you still have, or which one you want to rebuild. You might be surprised how many people are in your shoes, and how many lives your courage could inspire. And if this video helped you or reminded you of your strength or gave you a new idea to try, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with someone you love. A friend, a neighbor, a parent, a partner. Someone who needs to hear that aging can still be powerful. Because here on this channel, we're not just talking about getting older. We're building a generation of elders who grow wiser, stronger, and more alive with each passing year. So keep standing up without your hands. Keep remembering, keep smelling, gripping, forgiving, and learning. Because if you're doing these things, you're not just likely to live to 100. You're likely to live fully every single year until then. See you in the next video. Stay wise, stay strong, and stay beautifully alive. Comment. Share how many signs you still have. Like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Share with a friend or family member over 60. Remind them, you're not old, you're rare.